So, who wants to talk about something decent for a change? A decent adaptation of a well beloved source material. It doesn't happen a lot, does it, these days? That's why I've decided that I need to review One Piece because it's decent. Bonjour. Yeah, whoever would have known it. This is. I'm not saying my watching One Piece was me giving Netflix their last chance at manga, a live action manga adaptation. I'm not saying that. I will just drift onto these shows as and when. And whether it's recently, whether it's books, I'm looking at you, Wheels of Time and Rings of Power. Games, I'm looking at you, Halo and Resident Evil, etc. Manga, I'm looking at you, Cowboy Bebop. So One Piece turns up, and you just kind of sit back and think, "Oh yeah, come on, carry on, carry on," because that's the way it's getting. And I know I'm old and I'm a geeky old hog and all that, but it's refreshing when something comes along like this that is so unapologetic and owns its weirdness, it owns its quirkiness. Everything that made the original anime and manga work, they own it. They're not ashamed of it. Like the aforementioned, and particularly like Marvel and Star Wars at the moment. When you watch these shows, it's like they're ashamed. Whatever's on the title, whatever title it is, whatever character or storyline is on the title, it's like they're ashamed that they've got to do a show based on that. Like the Nick Fury show, the Secret Invasion. It's like they're ashamed to deal with a Skrull alien invasion of Earth. They've got all the money in the world, they can do what they want, and they decide to kind of cower and hide in the corner and ground it and do something real. No, I'm telling you now, One Piece is unashamedly weird, wacky, and wonderful. Right from the beginning, and everything, nothing in the first episode. This is going to be a quick review. Spoiler alert, by the way, spoiler alert. Nothing, they're not reinventing the wheel with this first episode of One Piece. It's like they've just got the basics right. Right from the beginning, where you get Ian McShane's voiceover and a map. What a simple device. We now know we're not on Earth. We're in a fantasy land. We're in a fantasy. We're in a pirate fantasy on in a land of no name, and how effective it is. It introduces the Marines that work for the world government. It introduces the pirates. That kind of makes you feel like they're the rebels. The way they introduce the world government and the Marines that work for them, it adds more glamour to the whole pirate fantasy. And he introduces the title. One Piece is the name of the treasure that they're all that they're all after. We're introduced to Monkey D. Luffy, who is our main character in his straw hat. Throughout the first episode, we get to hear we get to find out more of his origin, where he gets his powers, because he's a rubber man. He's basically Mr. Fantastic. It's so weird where he gets his scar from. We get introduced to, we're introduced to him, and you think that he's breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience in the opening scene. He's not. He's talking to a seagull. The seagull's got a hat, a scarf, and a little satchel, and he flies away. When he flies away, Luffy goes, "Mutiny!" As if this little boat he's on, he's bailing out this little boat. Anyway, it sinks, jumps in a barrel, puts the lid on, and off he floats. Like I say, this is all insane stuff, but they so own it. And when you own it and you don't back away from it, when you don't try and make that look realistic, and also explain everything. We don't know why he's in the middle of the ocean on this little boat. He's just explaining his story. We're just getting introduced to a new character. And no, he floats into the middle of a pirate battle. So we've got a bit of action going on there. We've got the pirate ships fighting. We're introduced to this really violent pirate called Alvida. And another associate, or episode 1's building the team. So Kobe is the next character along. And they are working for Alvida. And they brought the barrel on board, and out comes Luffy, and Kobe's there. Anyway, they strike up a friendship. And we get an introduction to his rubber pal. We do a flashback. We get an introduction to his Shanks, who's this pirate that when Luffy was young, he looked up to this pirate called Shanks. And he's got the straw hat that he's wearing. Like I say, this is not reinventing the wheel or trying to explain rocket science. It's a fun romp, and every scene builds on and informs you of each character and their traits. There's a little bit of floating and talking with Luffy and Kobe. I'll admit that, because if this was Star Wars, I'd be honing right in on that. So I will admit, but it just doesn't slow it down. I think this is an hour. I think the runtime is nearly an hour. It goes over an hour with the credits. And it's a properly good episode 1 introduction. The actor who plays Luffy, I just think he's superb. And in fact, I don't think there's a bad performance in it. The guy who plays Helmeppo, which is the son of our main villain, is Captain Morgan, not to be confused with the rum, which I thought was great. I mean, this is 20 years old, this manga, so I don't know if Captain Morgan was a little reference to the rum that's been going forevermore. But I just thought that's nice. And we're just introduced to all these characters. It's just each scene. It just romps along. If we haven't got a pirate fight and Alvida's smashing someone's head in, we've got Ravano Zorro. Sorry if I pronounce his name wrong. You know what I'm like with names. I'm going to call him Zorro from now on. Zorro he's a samurai, and we get introduced to Nami, who's using her womanly wiles. It is a predictable scene when she's in the boat and the two pirates on their own, and she's going, "Oh, help me, help me." But she uses it. They don't back away from a female character using her womanly wiles to get ahead. She's a thief, a pickpocket. She's got those skills, but she's also a female in this world. And I love it. Again, it's unapologetic. They've got plenty of room here to do a lot of non-binary kind of pansexual, hoity-toity, up your jumper, whatever you want to call it for the modern age. No one can attack this, and because they've set it in a fantasy realm, you can have as many races, colour, creeds, religions as you want, and it doesn't look silly. It just adds to the appeal. It just adds to the madness of it, to be fair. Which I just kind of love, and it does feel like a breath of fresh air, this show. And I know I'm gushing, that's why I thought I had to do this review of it, because I don't often gush about much. And this was unexpected. This was unexpected. I just thought, and the fact that they're all breaking into the boat, like all our characters come together, breaking into this base to get the map. Luffy falls through the ceiling onto the map. Nami's got through with her guile and wits. He's fallen through. And Zorro has been strung up by Captain Morgan because he's had a run-in with his son Helmeppo, and beautifully hammed up by Aidan Scott. He's hamming it up to within an inch of his life, that bloke. Great long blonde hair, he chops it all off. And what's with the suit and the trainers? The costume department has adhered to, and this is without me having researched the original manga, has adhered to the creation, the original, so much. You can just tell by some, even Captain Morgan's, like the striped trousers and his jacket, and everything's weird. And why would his son be in a burgundy suit with trainers? It's great. It worked in the manga, and somehow in this world they've created so effectively in episode 1. This is what they've done so well. They effectively created a fantasy realm. And like I say, there was a predictable bit with Nami on the boat. There is a silly bit when they managed to get Captain Morgan's safe, and with his rubber arms, they pull it out the window and they fall 10 stories. These are the bits that you kind of overlook. You kind of roll your eyes for a second, but there's a fight scene now. All the Marines are coming out. Zorro is deciding whether or not to join in the fight. You haven't got time. You've got time to roll your eyes once and then move on, because this is the world we're in. Like I say, they've done a very, very effective job. Everyone weird and wonderful. Captain Morgan with his metal jaw, and the fight scene, and old Zorro deciding, he's looking out at the street and it's all quiet and mundane and boring and dull and grey, and he looks back that way and they're all having a fight. The Marines are having a fight with Nami and Luffy, and he's seeing the Marines get maybe might be getting the upper hand, and he just joins in. And then Captain Morgan turns up, and it's the three of them versus Captain Morgan. Just a nice way. Just a ridiculous setup for a fight scene, but effective. And it ends on, not a cliffhanger, but just a lovely, just a wonderful setup for not only episode 2, but for episodes beyond that, because he leaves Kobe behind, because Kobe's told Luffy that I want to be a Marine. So these two, that we followed from more or less the beginning of the show, are parting ways, which was nice. It was just nice to see. So much has gone on in this one episode. And costume design, locations, set design, acting, the writing, everything. I'm not saying this is perfect, but I tell you what, it is very, very, very enjoyable. And it sets up the Straw Hat Pirates right at the end. You've got the bloke from the beginning who was executing the original, the pirate, what was his name? Gold something. The original pirate that sets off the chase for the One Piece, who sets off the search 22 years ago. It changed the world. That's it. It changed this fantasy realm into a pirate realm. It's a wonderful, and I think it's the wackiness of it that they have maintained that I'm enjoying. They're just, like I say, I know I've said it a couple of times, they are unapologetic, and they aren't explaining to you why this should exist, which is brilliant. I love it. They're full on. And the main character, old Luffy, his limitless enthusiasm and optimism, it's almost infectious. Like you're with him. You're just with him. From talking to the seagull at the beginning to right at the end, where he's talking to Nami and Zorro, and he's talking about my crew, and they both keep saying, "We're not your crew," and you know they are. You know they're going to be. You know this is the adventurers that we're going to build on in episodes to come. But it's nice to have our expectations met. Meet the audience's expectations. Give us more fun. Love it. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to be reviewing each episode by episode as I watch them. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and it gives you a little flavour. Or, well, if it's give you a flavour, I'll give you spoilers, to be fair, but I don't know if there's much there. Anyway, on that note, I am going to bid everyone adios.